Hi, I'm Brody. I'm here going to be talking about 2001 Space Odyssey for my FMS 340 class, Signs of Aliens. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the theories of what the monoliths might be and what they represent, and also I'm going to touch points on masculinity and signs of aliens throughout the movie as well. The monolith can be represented in many ways, which many people interpret differently. It's what the video really today is about, what I believe and why. So we start with these proto-humans in this very arid, deserted landscape that you can tell this is the early times of man. There's nothing that's really improved in who knows how long the beginning of this proto-human's life. And we notice these proto-humans are lacking anything to continue life. They're like searching for food, they're picking up bones. And we even actually see one of them get attacked by like a leopard sort of creature. And we notice that, in another part they're kicked out of their watering hole because of the lack of tools they have. They're basically, if just another strong force comes in, they have nothing to control themselves. We just see there's like just this lack of technology that these proto-humans have to continue life. So one night after they're kicked out of their watering hole, this rectangle box appears, and it's this monolith. At first these proto-humans don't know what it is. They're figuring out, what is this? They're going up and touching it. They're trying to, but we know it's important because this intense piece of music always arises around when this monolith appears. And then we jump to, after they touch this monolith, they're looking for food, and he comes across these tools. These tools, bones that can be used for a tool. But first he doesn't know that, and he picks it up and starts hitting stuff with it, and then next he realizes this is an actual tool, this can be used for things. And we jump to cuts of them eating now food, and they end up kicking out another species, or their other proto-humans out of the watering hole they were kicked out of. So we notice this now, that after this monolith appears, something happens. There's a revelation with these tools. After this proto-human is figuring out this bone now used for a tool, we go to our infamous jump cut of him throwing the bone in the air, and it jumps basically into now a modern day spacecraft. And this is a huge sign of just saying, like, this tool from such basic, rudimentary uses of just trying to find food to now we're in space. I think that's a signification of just a huge jump in time and technology. And our new character's introduced, Frank. Frank comes on, and he's there because they found this new monolith on the moon, and he's starting on the spaceship to eventually get to the moon. And when he's on the spaceship, he uses Skype, or kind of like a video chatting system like Skype, or like FaceTime like we use today. So this shows that there's a lot of technology now, a lot more than there was in the beginning of the movie. And then eventually they get to the moon, and that's where now we find our second monolith. This is another jump in time, because now we go to 18 months in the future, and now we're heading towards Jupiter, which in my eyes is like another feat in itself, because this is a lot of very far away than compared to the moon. So now we're jumping into Jupiter 18 months later, and we get introduced to Bowman and Poole and our whole new AI technology. How? This is the example of saying when these people touched the monolith on the moon, it's not as big a jump as there was from these proto-humans to now on a spacecraft, but it is a definite jump, because now we have this artificial intelligence named Hal, and Hal actually ends up killing everybody on the ship except Bowman. And Bowman, the only way he can survive is he actually shuts down the core, like the hard drives of Hal. And I think this is just kind of like showing that this new technology is our new way of life. They're going to be able to control the way we do and the way we think. And kind of an example of this is humanity's last chance of surviving against maybe this new life form called AI. This is an insight for people. And while after he finally figures out how to shut down HAL, we experience now our third monolith. Bowman encounters the third monolith. This sends him into this time warp, and you're not really sure because it's just a whole bunch of colors and streams and all these big explosions, almost like you're entering this new life, it seems like. And Bowman ends up into this other dimension. It's a very Victoria-style building, and all of a sudden he just starts aging very progressively. He's seeing himself just age and age and age. I think this is an example of humanity coming to an end. He's a metaphor and for basically watching. This is a time warp of this is the end of humanity, and then all of a sudden Bowman is on his last breath, in bed on his last breath, and then all of a sudden the fourth monolith appears, and this fourth monolith is almost like the final chapter in this Bowman's life, because he transforms him into this space baby. And I think that's the meaning of, we have now gone for the end of human race, and now we're this new species, I guess you want to, of this space baby. Reiterating, all these monoliths, the four monoliths we see, the beginning one with the proto-humans, to jumping huge leap in the future in technology, to now we're on a spacecraft, to finding the next one on the moon, to pushing us farther into Jupiter, creating AI technology, and then basically sending humanity to its final end and recreating us into the space babies, or this new species of like a space baby. I think the monoliths represent this nudge to push humanity further into evolution and to become what our new species is, that's going to, I think, maybe one day supposed to leave this planet. Another theory of the monolith that's always kind of caught my attention, that I always thought was pretty interesting, is that the monolith represents the movie screen. At first, obviously, you don't recognize this because the monolith is always vertical. But if you take the monolith and turn it sideways, it actually looks like the ratio of your cinema screens you see in the movie theaters. I think Kubrick does this because he wants you to look at things differently. If you put it flat the whole time, one, it wouldn't fit on the screen, I don't think, and two, I just think people would understand it too easily. Kubrick wants you to see things in different ways, like when we were going through the time warp. It started out, all the images were vertically set, all the lines, all the colors, everything was vertically, and then all of a sudden we just randomly clip to a horizontal now. And I think this is a metaphor, Kubrick's way of saying, okay, we're not seeing things vertically, you're not understanding, maybe try looking at it differently, turning it sideways. And I think this is what his point is, saying, look at things a little bit differently in this movie. Kind of sort of relates to what I'm saying and what my theory, I believe, what the monolith is, because I think what he's saying is that the movie 2001 Space Odyssey is the monolith, and that's basically taking humanity on this conscious realization of what our species might be, of those space babies. I think that was his whole point, is that you watch this movie and this is a glimpse of maybe what humanity might be. Another theme that I noticed a lot in the movie 2001 A Space Odyssey is the representation of masculinity throughout the film. We see this a lot, especially with the opening scene starts out with the dawn of man. The very early scenes is very primitive. We have these proto-humans that are trying to find food, and then when they eventually figure out how to use these tools that we talked about, shows them killing, these animals, eating meat, very, very masculine, not, very violent. It's something that, you would relate with most of the time with what boys might be into. I think this goes back to the early primitive days that we're taught that the hunters and the gatherers. The men were the hunters and the women were the gatherers. So I think this is a representation of this evolution of a man figuring out how to now find out food for their little tribe, and then he's the head dominant one that takes back their watering hole. So I just think this goes back to the masculine side of things, that this isn't a female. This 1/8 that the readings Man and the Monolith talk about, this 1/8 that kind of takes responsible for this technological leap, they kind of make him out to be a masculine character. Also, we see a lot of masculinity with our astronauts. We'd also first see that all the astronauts are male. That's a first example. And even the voice of Hal is a man. And it's kind of funny because most days now all of our AI, like Siri, is a female. So it's kind of interesting to hear it from a male's point of view. We also notice themes of masculinity because when Hal kills off Poole, Bowman is forced to go retrieve him, and if you watch that, he's just emotionless, very emotionless throughout the whole thing. He's not upset. This is supposed to be, I would assume somebody's friend, or at least somebody that you care about. You're spending, months and months on end in space with them. I would hope you have some emotions for him, and Bowman has zero emotion, and I just think this goes back to how the representation of man has to be so butch. We can't be sad, we can't show emotion, and to be honest, that's not true. We all cry, we all show emotion. In the beginning of class, we first learned about the alien messiah taught by some of the readings by Ruppersberg. Ruppersberg breaks down the alien messiah in two parts. The first part being that aliens come and show us basically that we're not the only ones in the universe, first off, but really how powerless and how little we are in meaning to the universe. And then the second part is basically they're going to show us the way to fix either their problem or our own problem here on Earth. And I feel the monolith represents that, because this is something that does, and again, this is something that we don't know about, kind of like in all the other alien movies. These are beings that we're not too sure about, and we have to figure out what they are and what their reasonings are to be here. In Roger Ebert's review, The Monolith and the Message, he even mentions if Kubrick would have showed that these little green Martian men set these monoliths down in each place, maybe people would be more satisfactory. But it's like, do we have to explain every single thing that happens, or can we as an audience use our brains and try to figure it out? Basically, we can just gather from the movie that the monoliths are this higher power. They've been put on here by some other being or power, supernatural force, and they're there obviously to further humans' race. Each time, obviously, we encounter this, something drastically happens to humanity and changes. In the reading of Men and Monolith, it is never clear that the monoliths represent alien technology, supernatural force, or even a presence from God, nor does it say it's clear that the monoliths have anything to do with the progression of human evolution, or there to do anything. I think they're, or if it's even just there for merely observation. I believe, though, that the monoliths are something that was set there by some sort of supernatural force that is there to further the species of humans to eventually get off the planet Earth. So I hope this maybe gives a little clarification on what maybe you had thoughts of what the monolith was, and hope you maybe understand what I think it is. There's a lot of different theories behind it. Like I said, maybe it's a cinema screen to pushing humanity into evolution. We're not very clear. I think that's the beauty of Kubrick as a director, that he wants us to think at the end of the movie and discuss it and make videos like this and figure out what this really is. So I hope you've enjoyed my video. Thank you.